The 1980s was one of the greatest decades for on-screen entertainment. Major blockbusters like The Breakfast Club, E.T., and Pretty in Pink were few of the many hits that came out during the time. But the 80s wasn't just a great time for movies. Many TV shows such as The Cosby Show, Full House, and The Wonder Years were all hits coming to people's living rooms. In America, with a thriving economy, people in the United States were able to spend their money on things like TVs or trips to the movies, especially since a lot more of the movies being made were directed for a child or young adult audience. Parents were able to give their kids money for a movie. I interviewed my mom, a longtime moviegoer, who as a teenager in the 80s talks about what she saw at the movies, what brought her to the movies, and how she felt about going to the movies and watching TV at home. Here's what she had to say.
Did you go to the movies more as a teenager or more as a kid?
Definitely when I was a teenager. When I was a child, there weren't many movies to see in the theaters. As a teenager, I definitely did notice an influx of movies that were actually directed toward me. I think they may have drawn me to the movies more.
What brought you and your friends to the movies as a teenager?
Well, one of my favorite movies I saw as a teenager was The Breakfast Club. I saw it with one of my closest friends, Esther. I think the main reason we wanted to see it was because it was basically a look into our lives. We had grown up with the type of kids that were in the movies. It was the typical high school culture at that time. I guess we thought it was cool to see celebrities portraying that on the big screen.
As a teenager, did you find the movies or staying home and just watching television more entertaining?
I like going to the movies more probably because when I was a teenager we only had one TV in the house and I had 4 siblings in the house and I found it hard to get time to watch what I wanted to get. So going to the movies was sort of my way of getting screen entertainment.
So you really never watched TV at home?
Not much, no.
Okay. Do you ever sit down with your family and watch like TV shows like The Cosby Show, Full House, anything like that?
No, my parents didn't really like us to watch TV. It wasn't good they felt it wasn't a good family activity. The only thing we did as a family were eating meals like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and we used to play card games at the kitchen table. My parents were old-fashioned, never let us swear. They were always on top of my siblings and I when it came to our grades. They hated all the new technology that was coming out like TV.
In what way did these movies and TV shows influence you?
I would say that The Breakfast Club taught me not to look at people just on the surface. There can be so many great things about a person hidden in the inside, and it's just not fair to judge a book by its cover. I think TV shows like Full House taught me good family morals and made me the type of mother that I am today.
The 1980s, obviously a great time for entertainment, but this great time period stems back to 20 years earlier at the start of the 1960s, an economically prosperous time period where normal people were able to spend their money on other things besides the essentials for the first time. It seems 20 years later, in the 1980s, technology might be a little different, but the concept was still the same. In the 80s, it seemed almost in every household, rich or poor, there was a TV in the living room. The only difference between the 60s and the 80s is people didn't have to sit in their car to watch a movie on the big screen. Throughout the project, I have learned that just like me, my mom enjoyed going to the movies as much as I do. Many older people, like my mom, will argue that the TV shows and movies today aren't as good as the ones in the 80s. To me, that doesn't really matter. I just think it's cool to see that although the production might be different, you still see the same kinds of audiences that you would see back in the 80s.